welcome. I'm just going to give a few minutes to allow people to drop in. Just take a few moments to get yourself ready for this presentation. I am so excited to be talking to you about intuitive eating. This is one of my favorite subjects and has really changed my life. And I am really happy to be sharing some tips with you. So we'll just give it a few more minutes to let people join in. Hi everybody. Thank you for joining. And I hope you take advantage of asking questions. Now, I'll check in on the chat every so often. I'm going to be presenting some slides, and if you have any questions, you can drop them in, and I will, get to them. If not through the talk, then at the end. All right, we'll give it just another minute or so, and then we will begin. All right. Let me start sharing my screen. Just to introduce myself to you, my name is Vinita Gupta, and I have been working with Jesse for several years now. I discovered him, I believe, in 2020 while we were all in lockdown, and I used that time to really focus on myself and develop myself, and I learned so much from him. He's been such a great mentor, and it's been so wonderful to work with him and Sakula, and just to see how much they've grown and how exciting things have been and how much they offer to people. And it's been an honor to work with them and to be able to share my skills and expertise throughout the years. I've done some interviews with them where we talked about some of the things that are happening in the world with regards to health and wellness. And I'm really excited to be sharing intuitive eating. So welcome everyone. And I'm going to start my slide share, please. Go ahead and, maybe grab a notebook and a pen. We're going to talk a lot about some different things that you might find inspiring and want to note down. So please go ahead, get yourself situated, and let's begin. Okay. Can everybody see me? Can you just drop in a yes? And can you hear me? Is the volume okay? Just let me know that everything is working well. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay. So we're going to be talking about intuitive eating, as I've said. And what this is doing is really allowing you to tap into your innate wisdom to heal yourself and master your health. Now, why intuitive eating is so important is because our bodies are wise beings on their own. This is the most important aspect to remember. Our bodies know what to do. Apologize for a little bit of an alarm going off there. But our bodies know what to do. We do not tell our bodies that it is time to take that oxygen molecule and transport it over here so that we can do this function and then breathe. It does it on its own. We don't even understand how babies are born. We get the premise of it with the sperm and an egg and, all of this, divisions of cells that then form into a human. But we truly don't understand how it knows what to do. There is an inherent, innate intelligence within our bodies. Now, what our job is to do is to use our consciousness to be able to understand this wisdom. And when we can do that, then our bodies are doing what they are meant and designed to do. And what they are meant to do is to heal itself. Our bodies are designed for survival and for thrival. And what that means is when we are beyond the basic needs of survival, then we are thriving in the environment that we are in. And that is because we're giving it the input that it needs and everything that it needs to do so that it can constantly be allowing you to optimally function at your best. And when we give our body the room and the space and the inputs that it needs to heal itself, then we become masters of our lives and masters of ourselves. So this is a really important thing, right? Like we think that intuitive eating is all about, just knowing what our body needs so that we feel good and that we don't feel bloated and that, all the things that we think about with food. But really, intuitive eating is truly about allowing our bodies to lead the way and truly become the master of our health so that we can then be our best selves. Okay. So in today's class, what we're going to do is we're going to learn some tools. I'm here to empower you. Nobody can force you to do anything. Nobody can make you do anything. Your health is up to you. So what I'm going to do is empower you with tools so that you can become intimately attuned to what your body needs so that your body can do what it's designed to do, heal itself. And what we are going to do is we're going to gain a deeper understanding of why diets don't work and how to decode food rules. I'm sure you guys are very well aware of the fact that, just when you think like, okay, I'm going to eat this way, you suddenly see this like food rule and you're like, oh, wait, am I supposed to be eating this way? Or like, is veganism good or is it bad? Is being, paleo good or bad? Is, all these questions that we are, bombarded with because we just don't understand. There's way too much information out there. And a lot of it is out there specifically to confuse you. This is a design of the system in order to keep you guessing so that you can be told what it is that you need to do. And then you are listening to somebody else. And when you are listening to somebody else, you're giving your power away. And what ends up happening? We're not listening to our bodies. So when we understand why diets don't work and simple ways to decode food rules, we'll be able to understand what we need to do in order to learn to listen to our bodies. So learn how the health of your gut impacts your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health and how to heal your gut. Discern the differences between physical need and emotional need, and identify the patterns and stories in your life that create resistance to change. Now, each one of these topics is a masterclass in and of itself. So we're going to be covering a lot of the basics, and what you're going to be left with are the basic tools, the foundational tools, in order to make significant changes in your life so that you can continue this journey and really dig deep into your relationship with food. So just a little bit about me. I'm just laughing right now because when I look at this, my life is always changing, and my life is rapidly changing, and it just rapidly changed last week. And so all of this is true, but it's also very much shifted. And the reason why I'm laughing at this is because this all really started with intuitive eating. This all really started by allowing my body to lead the way. And really just really allowing myself to surrender to the process and knowing that I can trust those gut instincts that exist within my gut because my gut has been healed. So let me start with this. So who I am, multidimensional health and wellness coach. I say multidimensional because I do not work in just this plane of existence of alone. And you're going to see this with some of the things that we talk about. Food is, something that exists within this earthly realm, but there's a much deeper connection that we have to food than just this idea of carbohydrates and proteins and fats. And so there's much more to it. And it's really about unpacking the trauma that lives within your body and really understanding about those stories that we tell ourselves. So I deal, with people when talking about health and wellness, across lifetimes and, across different emotional states and bodies within this lifetime. I'm also an intuitive energy healer and a vegan chef at an Ayurvedic spa. This was a job that was handed to me last year. I didn't apply for it. I didn't even know how they found out about me. And they actually, it's an Ayurvedic spa. They don't necessarily do vegan food, but they were willing to go along with me because I myself am vegan. I do not promote or, try to enforce veganism on anyone, but that is just my personal choice. And they went with it and it's been a fun job. This is something that I think, it was a learning for me about how to surrender And, I actually said no to the job about 10 times. They kept coming back to me. So I asked the universe, why are you presenting me with this? This is obviously something you're telling me to do. And so I went in and it was a perfect match, and I'm really grateful for it. The founder of my company, Food Alchemics, and I'm a homeschooling mom. This was also a massive change that happened for me last year. And again, gut instinct. All of this is really, all of my life that I've been talking about to this moment has been all based on gut instinct and knowing how to truly trust myself and really know that I have everything that I need within me. And it came from healing my gut. My background is that I have a PhD in molecular biology and biochemistry. I'm also trained in nutrition. I spent more than 15 years in the healthcare industry, 25 years exploring alternative health modalities. While I was in the pharma industry, it wasn't the thing that I did. It was just the way I made money. But the way I really lived life was through alternative health modalities. And I'm always pushing the frontiers of health, nutrition, and spirituality. This is key. So I really have now built enough confidence in myself that I am really pushing everything to the next level. And again, I only state all of this because this is really what it means when you start healing your body and you start allowing your body to lead the way. You really begin to realize how much more powerful you are than you realize. I was that person that used to hide in the shadows. Doing something like this, giving a talk like this would have scared me. I used to have to give talks in, the industries that I was working in, and I would, get up there and I'd be full of nerves, and I was, delivering something that I wasn't passionate about, but it was still something well prepared, and I had no reason to be nervous. And it's because I wasn't in touch with myself. I wasn't in touch with my true essence of who I was. And who I was is somebody who is a powerful creator. And so this is why it's a really important thing when we start to take care of our health. It's not just so that we feel better. Feeling better is the most amazing thing that we can do, because then it leads to the next level. When we can start to step out of ourselves, our limiting beliefs of ourselves, and we can really step into our true power, and we can step into that which we are meant to do. Now, the reason I was laughing at the beginning of this is because just last week, literally like 2 days before I started on Monday, I was offered a full-time job. And it was something, again, I did not look for this job. They came to me. They didn't even know what I did. And it's these, ascension coaches that I work with that really focus on the ascension. And I was just guided through a series of steps to, be connected with them. And, we just had a very strong energy match. And it was a testament to how much work I had done on myself. And they didn't know what I did. They didn't know my background. And I didn't even know what they were offering me. They just asked me to come on board their team. And they actually put me in charge of everyone. And it's crazy because it is actually the perfect fit. We are 100% aligned, and it taps into everything that I've ever done. I see how my soul was laying this path out for me in a way that I could not have imagined. And again, this is what it means to step into your power. And for me, it began with taking control of my health. All right, so let's get into what is intuitive eating. As I mentioned, it's about really learning to listen to your body. You're developing an intimate relationship with yourself. But what really, really you are truly learning to do is you are learning to trust yourself. You are learning to, play with yourself like you are a grand experiment and trying different things and then learning what works and doesn't work. And you are learning that you can rely on your own instinct to know what is good for you and what is not good for you. Why is this important? Well, ever since that we were born, we've been told what to do, right? From the moment that, we enter this world, people are telling us this is a dog and this is a cat and this is a ball and this is red. And we're constantly being told everything. And we rely on other people to feed us this information. And as a result, we start to really think that we don't ourselves know something and we have to learn it from somebody else. What's really more interesting is the fact that when it gets down to the fact when we have those gut instincts when we're young, right? Those little things that are like, I don't know, like I don't know, like I can't even think of an example right now, but those little like nudges that you might have had when you were young and being told that it was wrong. Sometimes it's for like this sake of safety. Like if a child wants to run into the street to go catch a ball, of course you're going to pull them back because you don't want them to get hurt. That's something that they are, learning to take care of themselves and to like look on both sides of the road. However, a child wants to go out and play and, mom says you have to eat first because we eat at this time. And then, the child is like, but I want to play. And, they're like, I'm not hungry and I don't want to eat at this time. And so then you start to learn like, oh, we eat at this time, not based on the fact that I was hungry. We eat at this time because this is what I'm supposed to do. And as a result, we start not trusting our own instincts. So intuitive eating is about really getting back into trusting ourselves, trusting our feeling, learning to trust that gut reaction, to learning to discern what we're truly feeling so that we can, really just take our health to the next level and then take our lives to the next level, like what I was telling you about my own journey. It's really about rejecting the rules and unlearning the things that you've learned. As I mentioned, you can listen to the things that are out there, but then people are going to constantly bombard you with the rules of how you should eat. But really, that's not the rule for you because you are a unique individual based on your own unique programming. And so that rule may not work for you. It's about tapping into your body's wisdom, the codes that define you, and really continually evaluating the relationship building that you have with your body and that feeling of hunger. Now, the reason I state this is because if you think about it, we use food for everything, right? We use food for celebration, right? When we want to, celebrate a birthday, celebrate a big promotion, celebrate, anything in life, we're like, let's go out for food and drinks, or like, let's have a cake, let's treat ourselves. We also use food for punishment. If you are, feeling low, if you lost your job, if you broke up with someone, what do? You want to eat ice cream and cake. So we're using the very same food items to celebrate good and bad in our life. And so we drown our emotions and we also celebrate our emotions, in this food, and it sends our bodies mixed signals. Is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? So no wonder we have this constant need for certain foods and then we just don't feel good because our body doesn't know what's actually good for us. So we want to continually discern, why are we eating what we are eating? And, really learning to build that relationship with your body and allow it to evolve over time. Because, as you are changing, we evolve in this world, our bodies evolve. We don't stay babies forever. And, when we're in our 20s, our bodies are different than in our 40s. We're constantly evolving. So what we want to do is just continually allow this relationship to be an evolution. It's not something that, like if you decide, okay, veganism is good for my body now, and I'm going to be vegan for the rest of my life, you don't necessarily know that, right? You don't know where your journey is taking you. So just allow that relationship with your body to evolve. Now, it's really important that we do this because, we want to understand that we're not going to get to, there's never going to be a hard and fast rule, right? Remember what I said, intuitive eating is about rejecting the rules. And so that is even the rules that you create for yourself. So that's really, really important. Okay. And what is intuitive eating? It is all about self-respect and self-love, because this is about listening to your body, giving it what it needs, and learning that you are doing this because you want to, you're consciously choosing to, and not because you're drowning your emotions and distracting yourself. One of the things that I still combat with myself is distracted eating, where I like to snack while I'm working. And what happens is that I'm constantly just snacking, and then I don't feel so great afterwards, because sitting at the computer and eating and being still in this position is just not good, because my stomach gets crunched up, and I'm not digesting well because I tend to hunch over my computer. This is not how I can love and respect myself. So now what I do is I consciously make decisions that I am going to take a break for 5 minutes, eat the snack, and then come back. And that is a better way to go about it. So I treat myself with self-respect and self-love. And when we start to make these conscious decisions for ourselves, then we are actually letting our bodies know that this is something that makes us feel good. And you begin to discern those feelings of is this really a time that I need to eat or not, or am I just trying to distract myself? One other thing that I want to say is that we live in a time that food is really, really abundant, right? Food is everywhere. It is just everywhere we go. We're bombarded. I live in Los Angeles, so I'm bombarded with billboards. But there's TV commercials, and you everywhere you go, there's this idea of foods. Food is being really pushed at us, and this is something to think about. It's only been a little over 100 years that we've had food available to us the way we do, because that was really the advent of refrigeration, right? Prior to that, food had to be stored in a certain way. It had to be cured in certain ways. It had to, it wasn't this idea that just food was everywhere. And we really had this, this drilled into us over these last few years, that we have to have a recommended amount of protein, fats, carbs, vitamins, minerals, and this has to be on a daily basis. This is this recommended daily amount that we're supposed to be eating of these things. I mean, this has only been in existence for less than 100 years. Prior to that, those rules did not exist. So this is a really important thing. When you start looking at the rules, when you start looking at the way food is marketed to us, why are they pushing this food on us? Okay, so start to think a little bit deeper. It's one of those things that you see the food and you get into what's known as a Pavlovian response. There's this scientific experiment with a dog, and every time they would ring the bell, the dog would salivate, because the bell meant that dinner was coming. And so even when dinner wasn't coming, when they would ring the bell, the dog would salivate. And so it's the same thing for us. We see a picture of something that we find appealing, and it immediately causes that salivation response. It sends our body into getting ready to eat. And so they know what they're doing with marketing, and they know what they're doing when they give us these rules, because then it starts to make you question yourself. It starts to make you doubt yourself. It starts to make you wonder if you're eating the right thing and doing the right thing. What we want to move into is a point where you're not questioning these things, where you are now saying, you know what, I'm going to try this. Let's see, that was like a, picture of a pizza, and I crave pizza. Let me have the slice of pizza, consciously eat this pizza, and then see how you feel, right? We want to move into consciousness, and this is how intuitive eating begins. So why intuitive eating is important? It's because it's honoring our unique bio-individuality, okay? This is a word that I heard from some nutrition group or something several years ago, and I really love it, because we are not the same biologically. As I told you, my background is in molecular biology, and I'm really into how the body works. And when we think about who we are as biological beings, sure, we've evolved, in a certain way, and, we have all these very similar traits that make us very similar. But we are very, very different, because how we develop is going to be based on our experience. It's not only experience in this world, it's experience through lifetimes, okay? This is not just about, like a linear model where you look at, the way a baby develops, and, all the development pattern happens the same way, and then, you end up with a baby. It's not that, because think about the mother. one mother might be drinking more water. Maybe one is having coffee. Maybe one is having emotions about themselves because, they don't feel great. Maybe one feels blissful all the time. All of these things are going to impact the way that baby develops. And then in your life as well, every single thing about you is impacting your biology. And so therefore, you can look at rules out there, like, there's like eating for your blood type, eating for your body type, eating for this and that, right? I have to say, I have explored all of those rules and none of them apply to me. It used to like frustrate me because they would be like, well, if you're B blood type, you should be, like a meat eater, like meat is good for your body. And yeah, my body needs a lot more iron. And that's probably why they're saying that. But I have to tell you, meat does not work in my body. And that is because my childhood was, laden with antibiotics and it destroyed my gut. And I had a lot of trauma when I was young and all these other things that led to really deep gut trauma. And so my body can't digest meat. And so it didn't make sense for me. So this is why we want to reject rules. We want to honor your unique bio-individuality, your own unique path that got you to where you are today. There is nothing wrong with, anything that has happened to you. It's about loving every aspect of your life, even those hard parts, and just allowing yourself to be where you are, who you are in this moment of today, and listening to your body and really allowing you to do what is right for your body. So diets focus on restriction and force, right? And it's not the needs of your body. That's what diets do. It's all about, what you take away and what you don't need and what you should eat. And this puts it all into your head. When you are on a diet, you are thinking a lot about food. You are thinking about all the things you can't eat. And then you're trying to convince yourself for all the things you can eat as being good. And it doesn't come easily all the time because it's not tapping into the needs of your body, right? What happens with a diet is that you can achieve certain things. Like there are certain things that are really good to do with a diet. So for example, when my body was saying, you know what, you need to stop eating bread, because I when, those questions that they used to ask you if you were stuck on an island and you could only have 2 foods, what would it be? For me, it was bread and butter. And so, giving up bread was something that was really hard, but my body's signal was so clear. We need to stop this. And so I let my body lead the way. And when I was doing this for my body, then it wasn't a diet. It wasn't a restriction. It was a natural flow. And that's what we want to get into, right? We want to get into consciousness, learning to listen and feel our bodies so that we're moving into this with flow. I'm telling you right now, when I told you that I push myself to, the frontiers of health and all these things. So I'm actually dealing with a few things in my body right now. I managed to crack a tooth, actually tooth teeth, the top and bottom molar, because I'm grinding at night. And I think it's the ascension energies. They're so strong and I'm just grinding and grinding and grinding. And I cracked 2 teeth. And I went to my holistic dentist and they were like, oh, well, we're going to have to pull them out and you're going to have to get a root canal and a crown and all this stuff. And I was like, the crack wasn't that bad and it hurt a lot, don't get me wrong. And I've never really had teeth problems. I've been lucky with my teeth. I've just never had teeth problems. And I was like, I refuse to believe that I have to have this tooth removed because I have the small crack in it. And it was really clear to me that my, teeth are living parts of our body. Bone is living. All this stuff is living. There's not a single part of us that's dead. And I was like, no, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to figure out how to fix this. And then my guides and my intuition was really sharp and told me, you need to go on a fruit-only diet. And I was like, fruit only? I don't want to go on a fruit-only thing. But I really was feeling into it. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, my body is really craving fruit. And that's because, and this is a whole different class, but, we talk about what are humans, carnivores or herbivores. We're actually frugivores. We're actually built to eat fruit. And, and it's just how we eat fruit and all these things. And fruit has been condemned for a reason, because they don't want us eating fruit, because it's actually one of the good things for us. But anyway, so I was like, you know what? I am going to heal my tooth, and I'm going to feed my body what it needs in order to do this healing. So I actually started a 3-month fruit fast where I'm only eating fruit. And I'm paring this down slowly, and I'm not doing this alone. I found a mentor, to help me, because, to keep accountability and things like this. But again, it was my body leading the way. And what is this going to do? It's going to allow me to tap into the healing potential and superpowers of my body. I have heard about people really repairing some severe damage in their body. I can tell you, and we'll talk a little bit about my own story later, but like, I have reversed prediabetes. I have, I've done miraculous things with my body from just leading into this path of intuitive eating. The thing is that just remember that you don't have to do everything right away. Okay. I want to really reiterate that. I'm going to keep saying this throughout the talk. You don't have to do everything right away. It's about taking small steps. Okay. Taking small little steps every day and really bringing consciousness into it, so that your body then is telling you what you need to do. And then when the change comes, then when you know what you need to do, then you can surrender to it and just allow yourself to do it. I never imagined myself giving up things like butter or cheese. Like, that was just, that was like a no-go for me. And to watch my body lead to the point where it was like, nope, no more animal products for you. I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. And I haven't missed it. I still serve my family, all the cheese and butter, and I cook with it for them. And it doesn't even tempt me. And it's because my body has taught me what it needs in order to feel good. And like I said, this is going to allow me to really, tap into a healing potential. And this is what it's going to do for you. This is how it's going to help you really achieve this next level of your beingness. Every step you take is going to allow you to unfold and step into a new version of you. And as you become more intimate with yourself, you're going to just see yourself develop in new ways that you never thought were possible for yourself. And this happens partially because you never can imagine that something as simple as changing your diet is going to release deep-seated traumas and emotions. Now, I'm sure you've experienced this when you go through a diet, or when like somebody says you can't have this food, or you think about going away somewhere and not having your favorite food. You become very triggered. It's like, oh, I can't eat this. I'm not going to have this. Food is a very, very intimate relationship that we have an intimate relationship with food. And so you are able to really tap into certain emotions and traumas that were hidden in there, and just really allow yourself to unwind from that and release that and really shed that layer of you. And you'll recognize patterns of your mentality and emotions. You're going to hear the stories that are in the background, like, oh, I eat pasta at this time when I'm feeling this way because that was grandma's pasta, and like, she just made me feel so good and loved, and oh wow, that's what I'm needing right now. What I'm needing is love. And because I need love, I'm going back to a memory that really allowed me to feel that love, and I'm acting in that way. And so when you begin to see these patterns and break away that emotion from the food, you can then stop the unconscious eating and then reprogram yourself to feel that emotion in a new way. I need love right now. So what can I do to love myself? Maybe I can take a walk, or maybe I can take a bath, or, maybe I can call a friend, whatever it is that you need to do, but you can change that pattern so that it's not about unconscious eating. And this is going to help you remain conscious and present. All right. Does anybody have any questions? How's it going? All right. Wonderful. So let's get into our modern lifestyle and food culture, because this is really what is the crux of why we don't naturally eat intuitively. You think that, like, some of the things that we are gifted with the ability to do, like, walking and even breastfeeding, like all these things, you begin to realize like how much of it is guided, right? Like we need to have like some help. It's not as natural as it seemed it would be. And so with intuitive eating as well, it's something that, you know, we don't have naturally built into our programming. And what really is disturbing this even more is the way we live. And it's what I like to call convenience culture. We're built on convenience, and whether it's to-go food or fast food, but it's everything is about convenience. We're always trying to eat on the go. We're always trying to eat, you know, something that's quick to make or easy to make. And, you know, this convenience culture is really just really encouraged. I mean, it's encouraged in all fronts. And it's something that, you know, I'm working on really, you know, talking about how this impacts our health in so many different ways. And when we let go of convenience culture, we can really start to unpack those things that are deep seated within us. So for example, like here's an example of convenience culture and health. If you get a headache, it's really easy to pop an ibuprofen or a Tylenol, but that is never going to get you to the root cause of why you have a headache. That headache could be because, you know, maybe you didn't drink enough water. That headache could be because, you know, you had a really hard day. You know, there's a lot of different reasons, and you're never going to get at that if you live in convenience culture, and it's really pushed on us. So I really highly encourage you, whenever you find that moment in your life, and anything that is small, where you can find that it would be more convenient if you did this, try to do something different. So like, for example, it would be more convenient if you took the highway instead of taking the scenic route when you're driving to work. Take the scenic route every so often, because then it just is allowing you to step outside of what we are being bombarded with. Anytime you can reprogram yourself in any way, you're making you know, a big change in the way your body is functioning. There are deceiving food labels. Again, this is just a whole like topic in and of itself. There are so many words that are put into food labels to make you think that food is healthy. They use words like rosemary extract. Now that sounds nice, right? The word rosemary extract comes under something that is known as the greenwashing of labels. Now, this is going to be different from country to country, okay? Like every country has its own rules. But I will tell you this, the US does lead the way in how a lot of communications happens across the world. And it's really important to pay attention to what's happening, because they, you know, while you might think, well, my country doesn't do this, it slowly starts to get slipped in you know, ways that you may not realize. For example, like sugar was something that, you know, pushing the sugar market was something that happened in the US, and it was not something that existed worldwide. And now you can find sugar everywhere worldwide, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that is not something that has always been there. So deceiving food labels. You might read a label and you might think, oh, this has got vitamin A, and this has using rosemary extract, and this is doing this. So rosemary extract is actually a form of MSG. And we're constantly told how MSG is bad for us. Now, MSG naturally occurs in foods and things like shiitake mushrooms, for example, and it's not bad in that form. What it's bad as is the way that we are using it in the food industry, where it gets, you know, really distilled into this really poisonous substance. And so you think it's healthy because you understand the word rosemary, but it has nothing to do with rosemary. Now, they're allowed to use the word rosemary because they use one chemical structure in there that is also found in rosemary, and that allows them to call it rosemary extract. So these food labels are deceiving. There's like 60 names of sugar, and you've got to know all the names of sugar in order to really realize that, you know, how much sugar is in food that is packaged. Fortified food, as I mentioned, like, oh, it's packed with vitamin A and vitamin D. Whenever they're saying it's fortified, this means that they have stripped it and reduced it to something that is so dead that it killed everything, that they had to put the vitamins back in. Now, when they put the vitamins back in, it doesn't mean that you're actually getting those vitamins, because your body is not digesting those the same. And we're going to talk about this a little later. But you are what you eat, but there's more to it than that. You are what you absorb. Eating unconsciously, we're prompted to eat all the time. Like we're just, we get invited to meetings with snacks. We, have food everywhere, and it just causes us to constantly have food in our mouth, and eating like while we're distracted, and there's just this unconscious behavior around eating, and we're not given that ability to really take that break and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat, and I'm going to focus on my food. And again, this is going to inhibit intuitive eating if we're not doing this enough. There's not enough breaks between food, between meals. I don't know how many food plans that I've read that are like, have this and then have a snack and then have this food and then have a snack. And we're told that we need all this food. Now, yes, you should eat if you're hungry, but there's things that you can eat. And usually we're not reaching for those kinds of foods. Usually we're reaching for the snack foods. And we're piling up food upon food. We're eating late at night. We wake up and then we're not hungry. And, it's just, and then we start piling on the food later in the day. And again, these are things that we can talk about a little bit, but, we want to really start to look at what it means to give our body breaks, and also to eat according to, our biology when we're secreting certain hormones to really help the digestive process and the incorporation of food. This other thing that we hear about in food, the food world, whether it be nutrition or, the food industry, is there's a focus on food as macromolecules, carbs, proteins, fats, and micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals. But food is not about the macromolecules and micronutrients. Food is life force energy. It is our exchange and our communication pathway with the earth. When we are eating food, we are getting packets of information that are telling us about our environment, that are telling our body how to adapt to the environment. When we are eating food, we are getting life force energy that we are converting into life force energy for us that we can use, that helps us to survive. And so when we are only focused on this idea of how many protein, how much protein can I have and how much carbs can I have, we're reducing food to this functional component that there is so much more to food than that. I want to recommend a book. There's this book by a man named Sayerji, Sayerji. It's a very technical book, so it's maybe not something that you want to dive into. It's a very much a science, geeky science book, but he really talks about a new biology and really talks about a lot of these things that I have always believed, but didn't have necessarily the science to prove it. And he breaks it down and really provides, an understanding of how this relationship with our environment and the earth exists on the scientific realm. And it's a really beautiful spiritual book as well. So again, there's also a focus on dead foods, not fresh foods. Dead foods being all the processed stuff, and not enough on the life-giving foods. And even when things are life-giving, we are again encouraged to tap into convenience culture. Can we get this already made for us, already cut for us? There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has to do what is right for them, okay? You want to take one step at a time. You don't want to say like, hey, tomorrow I am going to prepare all my meals from scratch and I'm going to eat only fresh foods and I'm going to cut it at the time that I'm going to, that I'm going to eat it. That's too much. You're going to fail right away. But what you want to start doing is looking at the different ways that modern culture is trying to promote a certain lifestyle for you and how you can back away from that and incorporate something else into your life. So for example, simple example might be like, if I go to the grocery store, they have like packages of like cut apple, right? Like wrapped in plastic, and apples should not be able to stay cut in a plastic bag on a store shelf for that long a time. I don't know what they have done to that apple to be able to make it do so. I can just grab a whole apple, wash it, and eat that, right? Simple little things. When you can see that you can make certain simple little changes in your life, just take that option. It's not about jumping in and making life overwhelming. It's about little small changes that you can put into action right away. One of the most important things that is, really prevented within our modern lifestyle and current food culture is this thing is called lack of microbial diversity. So we're going to talk a little bit about gut health and get into the idea of why we need diverse microbes in our gut. But it is because we want proper brain function. And when we don't have a diverse microbiome, then we are never going to be able to have this kind of communication highway with, what really sends the output signals, which is our brain, to tell our body what to do. So we want to make sure that we're starting to think about these various items, various points. So diets are designed to disempower you, right? There's focus on willpower. Willpower is something that you're guaranteed to fail at. I mean, this is why I have a mentor to help me with a 3-month fruit fast, because I know that if I were to do this on my own, willpower is just going to fail me. And I'm going to be like, no, I'm just ready. I just want to eat something and I'm not going to achieve my own goal. Diets are focused on willpower. And what happens is you end up with something that is called decision fatigue, because from the moment you wake up, whether you're conscious of it or not, but your brain is constantly making decisions. Your body is constantly making decisions. It's automatically doing this because you're not thinking about it. You don't have to think about it because your body is a perfect machine that knows what to do. It's adjusting to the temperature. It's adjusting to the light. It's adjusting to the pressure. It's adjusting to everything all the time. And you are making conscious decisions. Like in the morning, you're like, oh, should I, go brush my teeth, or should I go check on my kid first, or, whatever decisions you're making, but you're constantly making decisions and you don't even realize it. And you're navigating your life through these decisions. And so when you get to the point where you are, having to make a quick decision, or you're at the end of the day and you're exhausted, you're going to make the easier choice. And the easier choice is always going to be in your comfort zone. And so when diets are focused on this idea of willpower, you are going to fail. And when you fail, then you're like, you know what, that was too hard. That didn't work for me. I can't do this. And you go into the shame spiral, and that's just not going to help you. So you want to, really think about like small changes you can make every day. So it also, like, as I mentioned, you're going to keep questioning your choice. Did I make the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? You're going to focus your energy externally rather than internally. As I mentioned, you're going to give other people the power rather than taking the power for yourself to decide what is right for you. Somebody else is telling you what to do. And it's also meant to be a temporary thing rather than a way of being. When you incorporate slow changes, you're making lifestyle changes. You're living your life differently. But when you try to do these dramatic diets like that, for me, and I'll tell you, there's people who are doing this fruit fast that are making dramatic changes in their life. They are going from fast food to doing this fruit fast. But for them, they're trying to heal something that's pretty, traumatic, and they've gone through all the roads and all the things, and they're at their wits' end, and they're going to do a major thing in their life. For me, this fruit fast is something that I can do now because I have built something up for myself where this is this is just the next evolution of where I am. So for me, this is a lifestyle change. This is not a temporary way of being. And so you want to make sure that you're making changes that are going to be beneficial to you rather than something where you're like looking for the end. Oh my God, I'm going to be done with this. And then go back to an old way of being. Diets are focused on a one-size-fits-all rule. It doesn't involve with you or your environment. As we talked to you, there's bio-individuality. You are a unique being. And, they're not going to deal with all of your background. And I was only talking about things like in this life and your biology, with the way you develop with emotions and environmental cues. But there's also ancestry to consider, where you are living in the world, if you are even of this world. There are so many layers to this bio-individuality. And this is why one size all fits rules will never work. And if you really want to create an impact in your lifestyle change, relationship with food, then you really are going to, really have to do that work, the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects to create that behavior change. And diets are not designed to do that at all. And this is the number one thing. It goes back to, this idea of disempowering you. Diets make you the problem. It's like, it's all about, you didn't have the willpower, you couldn't succeed, you couldn't do that, rather than the food and the food industry and, everything else that's there. So it's really, designed to keep you in a lower vibration. And what we want to do is to change the way you're eating for your health so that you can be in a higher vibration. All right. So one of the first things that you want to start looking at and discerning is that feeling true hunger? So there are 7 types of hunger, and we'll just quickly go through this. Now, the only really true, genuine form of hunger is nutritional hunger. Nutritional hunger is when you are deprived of something. No, food is much more than, macromolecules and micronutrients, but those macromolecules and micronutrients do matter. And so let's say that, you are not having diversity in your diet. Well, there's going to be a point where you might have a deficiency in something. And so there's a cue in your body that you're hungry. But what you really are is hungry for that specific form of sustenance. And it just comes out as a hunger signal and we eat. But that's really the only true form of hunger. So thirst is another hunger signal. Our biology is based on these prehistoric beings that roamed the earth that only got water through like roots and tubers and fruit. And so when we're thirsty, our body sends hunger signals because that was how we would get water. So today, unfortunately, when we're thirsty, we get hunger signals and we're reaching for a salty snack that dehydrates us more. And so, it's really starting to look at like, oh, am I really thirsty? One of the tips that I always say is when you feel hungry, when you feel like it's time for a snack, have a glass of water and have a piece of fruit. And then you will know if this was a thirst signal or if this is true hunger. And if it is hunger, you're also starting with a piece of fruit that's going to satiate you in a different way. It's going to give you life force energy and all that. And then if you want to have your salty snack, have it afterwards, or candy or whatever it is that you're having, have it afterwards. But first start with something that's going to really give your body what it needs first. Variety. Our body craves variety. And we crave it to get a full range of nutrients. And unfortunately, in our modern world today, we're eating the same things repetitively. If you go to the grocery store, and again, I don't know exactly what it is, exactly where, everybody lives around the world, but for the most part, farming remains the same in the sense that there's only a few crops grown. It's going to be the most lucrative crops, and those are the ones that end up in the grocery store. And, when you're there, you look at the same exact produce all the time, you're eating the same exact things, and we're not getting enough variety. And so how are you going to get variety? Look for different colors of food. Look for different types of food. So if you're always going for, let's say, kale, maybe try to have some chard instead. Look for something different. Or maybe you always have, curly green kale. Maybe now this time you see purple stem kale. Go for that. Just add a little bit of variety because you're going to get more nutrients into your diet and your body's going to feel more satiated. Emotional hunger, I always say, is the most dangerous because this is when we're eating not because we're hungry, but to stuff an emotion rather than to really feel the emotion. And when we don't feel the emotion, we're not releasing it. It's going to get stored in our body. How is it going to get stored in our body? It's going to get stored as a lower vibrational energy. That's going to draw comfort to it. This is how we end up storing, just aches and pains and excess fat and all these other things. So we want to watch out for emotional hunger. When you're feeling emotional and you're craving something to eat, nourish yourself. Think like hydrating foods, water. Think of ways that you can calm your nervous system down. Take a bath. Just practice forms of self-care. Empty stomach hunger, right? My stomach is growling right now. I can tell you, I don't know if you can hear it. It's pretty loud to me. Empty stomach. That's actually not a bad hunger. Our bodies are meant to have fast periods, and we don't give ourselves enough fast periods. We're not giving enough time for our body to break down the food and really truly digest. And we want to do that because our bodies can only do one of two things. They can function in the way they can function, or they can rest, right? So we have our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, and we're either in fight or flight or we're rest and digest. When we are rest and digest, then we're not apt and alert and able to go do all the things that we need to do. This is why you get sleepy after meals. And so what happens is when we allow our stomachs to be empty, we go into rest and digest. And then that just allows that kind of restful period to be there throughout the day without having to, really feel like we need to get, energy from our food, but we'll have our bodies begin to be like these self-powering machines. And this takes time, but start slow, like intermittent fasting, there's lots of different ways out there that you can look at to increase those rest and digest times. Low blood sugar. Honestly, I deal with so many people who are like, well, I have to eat because I have low blood sugar. And usually when you're dealing with low blood sugar, it's because there is a lot of low quality sugars that are from the food. And when I'm dealing with people who are like, well, I have to eat because my blood sugar is low and I was feeling faint, and then we start to go through the list of things that they're eating, often it's a lot of diet foods, and the diet foods are rich in sugar. And so this will cause you to go through a slump. And it's just really dangerous for your body. So again, we want to be increasing the good sugars in our body, fructose from fruit, and boredom, procrastination, addiction, food addictions, right? Like this, it's just something to do. It's something that we're tied to. So really start to think about your hunger signals. When you get these hunger signals, why are you having these hunger signals? What's going on with that? All right, I'm just looking at questions really quickly. Reverse diabetes. Yes. So what I had was pre-diabetes, and I reversed that. And it literally was a change in my entire life. It was a lifestyle change. And we'll talk a little bit about that when I get to my story. The book by Sayerji is called The New Biology, I believe it is. And what tips can we use to tell which substance is needed? And I think maybe you can clarify on that question, and I'll come back to that. But I think you mean in terms of like which foods that we need. Okay. All right. So let's go on. Okay. Trusting your gut. As I mentioned before, the gut microbiome is one of the most important aspects that we can have when it comes to our health. I told you that by healing my gut is how I really transformed my life. And for me, the healing my gut process started when I left home when I was, like 16 or 17. And, I'm in my 40s now. So this has been a lifelong process. And what I teach people and like what I'm providing for you is how to like shorten this time so you don't have to spend so long doing that. But, I was healing my gut before I even knew what healing my gut meant. My dad's a gastroenterologist. He's a gut doctor. He doesn't know any of this stuff. And I'm the one who helps him with this. So this is relatively new information within the last decade or so. And it's really become, a buzzword, right? Gut health. And what we really want to do is like look at gut health, not as a marketing ploy, but as true gut health, because right now there's this focus on gut health. And with that comes this idea of like, look, this is probiotic fortified this. And, again, we want to step away from any sort of like marketing and really get into what is, our true personal need. Let's just talk about the gut first. So the gut is known as the second brain. We used to think that our brain was the master controller of everything. It turns out that the second brain is the master controller of everything else. The gut has, the gut has got as many nerves as the brain, but what's really interesting is that it controls all the master systems of our body, our immunology, our endocrine system, which is all of our hormones and stuff. It controls the way we feel, our moods. It controls all these little different aspects of us that, you can't even begin to fathom. And it all begins in the gut. Now, when they found this connection between the gut and the brain, they thought that the communication highway was going from the brain to the gut. It turns out the communication highway is from the gut to the brain, with 80% communication coming from our gut going to the brain. So the gut is really what is controlling everything within our body. And this is why it's really important to be focused on the health of your gut. The gut can keep us locked in the past. It keeps producing molecules of emotions that recreate old experiences based on foods and experiences that we are choosing. So, what am I saying by this? Your body does not know if it is something that happened last year, something that is happening now, or something that is going to happen in the future. When you are experiencing something in your body, it is happening in the moment of now. Now, I'm sure you've heard through a lot of spiritual disciplines, there is no other moment than this moment of now. Well, you can physically experience this in your body. When you think about that trauma that happened to you as a child and you are reliving it in your mind, your body is actually reliving that experience. This is also why visioning, and when you do visioning boards and also meditations that allow you to see what you are creating for yourself, this is why this also is very strong and works so well. Because when you feel the vision to be true, when you can see yourself in alignment with your vision, you're bringing your body into the present moment. And when you're bringing your body into the present moment, you're bringing that reality closer to you. So you're either bringing the past back to you or you're bringing a new future for you. And this is why it's really important to focus on best case scenarios versus worst case scenarios. When you're thinking about the future, don't think about, oh, if I drive this way, an accident could happen, because that is then creating that reality into your present moment now. What you want to think is, I'm going to arrive at this place and, with grace and ease, and I'm going to be on time and everything is going to be wonderful, because that's the reality you want to bring into your body. Your body does not know what's going on. Now, when your gut is constantly recycling emotions of the past, when your body is, recycling those old things, those parts of you that you're having a hard time forgiving or letting go of, then what happens is it keeps you locked in those molecules of emotion. And then you're going to keep locked into old patterning. When you're going to choose certain foods that you know are not good for you, but you can't help but eat them because it's tied to something. So this is where we use consciousness to help us. It's not just about healing your gut and having those desires go away. This is why I call it multidimensional, because there's a constant stream of different parts of us that are working all at the same time that we need to heal together. But what we want to do is help our gut feel better through the choices that we're making, using our consciousness to make better decisions, and then allowing our gut to go into repair so that it's actually then helping us make those better decisions when they now become second nature and they're no longer a choice you have to make, but the way your body is leading you. And healing your gut, what this is going to do is really, really help you reduce brain fog, anxiety, depression, lack of clarity, purpose, all these questions that we have as we go through our self-healing journey. And just because your gut is healed, and just because you have, found your moment of clarity and you've, gotten all your aha moments, doesn't mean that you won't have to go through this again. Remember, we're continually evolving. And so we're continually aligning with our new environment around us. So we want to make sure that we are, allowing this process to come again. And rather than be scared of these emotions that we're having, rather than pushing them away, really allowing ourselves to lean into them and just ask, what is that message telling you? Because this is a way you're creating safety in your body through experiencing those emotions. And then this is when your gut will help you lead the way. You'll trust your gut instinct. And, as we were talking about, it'll increase your manifestation powers, because, what's happening is that we are constantly, creating these visions for ourselves, but we don't feel it in our body. We don't feel it in our gut. We don't feel it in our beingness. Or then if we do feel it in our beingness, then it's temporary. We want to make this a long-lasting feeling. And the way you make it a long-lasting feeling is by feeling good now. And you feel good now by the choices that you make for what you put into your body. So moving on. So as I mentioned before, you are what you eat, but truly you are what you absorb, right? So you can't supplement your way to good health. You can't supplement your way to gut health. So, I even see some really very prominent like health figures out there who, try to like promote this idea of supplementation being the way. Supplementation is good and it's important, like taking vitamins and minerals, and because our food is depleted, and that's the truth. But there is so much more, and we cannot just take vitamins and minerals and all this and eat in a okay way or not so good way and hope that it's going to be better. But it's also going to be, because unfortunately what happens is that we're releasing a lot of those vitamins and minerals. We're not absorbing them, they're just flushing through our system. And then on top of it, we're not absorbing the food that we're eating. And so if we're not absorbing the food that we're eating, then we're certainly not absorbing the vitamins and minerals and all this that we're taking. And what absorption is impacted by is, like, as I mentioned, like the state and the health of your gut, your mental health, right? Because if you are in anxiety and if you are under stress, your body is not breaking down the food. Emotions, trauma, safety, all for the same reason. And so you are going to be not only changing what you eat, but it's like looking at how your entire life is lived. What are the changes you can do to really make your body feel safe, to make your mind feel safe, to be able to release those emotions, to be able to lean into the uncomfortable spaces and allow your body to work through them so that you can feel safe in your life in order to take in more. And what I mean by take in more is this input that you're putting in through food. All this information that's coming through food, now your body feels safe to say, yes, I welcome this into me and I'm incorporating it into my body. Because if you think about it, food is really giving up its own ego, right? Everything you eat, or every plant, animal, whatever you're eating, is giving up its own self, its own personality, its own beingness to become part of you. It's the ultimate sacrifice that they are making for us to then be a different, better, healthier, more, striking version of ourselves. And when we are allowing ourselves to receive, is when we feel safe to do so. And when we have all of these layers of mental health, emotional traumas that we haven't dealt with, we're not allowing ourselves to receive that sacrifice and allow it to become part of us. So it's more, it's really important to look at, all aspects of ourselves. So why do we eat? All right. Why do we eat? We eat because this is an earthly pleasure. Food and sex go hand in hand. These are stimulating earthly pleasures that we revel in. We have so many issues with them, right? Like both food and sex, right? We have a lot of like conflicting feelings about it, right? Because these are really strong earthly pleasures. We're meant to enjoy these earthly pleasures. We're just not meant to be dependent and addicted to them. Right? We want to look at this as a way to enhance our life and to make our life here on earth more pleasurable. But we don't want to cycle into, addiction with it. And we all have addictions. I'm still conquering certain addictions that I have. Like I'll notice that overeating will be an addiction that I am still trying to work with. And I look at what is going on in my life when I am overeating, and it doesn't necessarily have to be overeating on bad foods. One day I binge ate a container of blueberries. And while that might seem good, that many blueberries in your system is not good. And so, I had to look at what was going on in my life. What was I not willing to confront? So always pay attention. Like, yes, eating is fun. Eating is great. We socialize. We exchange so much for food, but we don't want to become addicted to it, and we don't want to do it unconsciously and just do it in a way that is going to be hurting us. It also keeps us in cycle with our environment. As I mentioned, food is information packets that are really feeding us information about the environment that we're in. That's why you hear a lot, eat locally. Eat locally is really important because it's really training our gut microbiome. And it's telling our gut microbiome about our environment, about what's available to us, how we can resource our energy. And so, really truly understanding that this is why we want to eat foods that are alive. It's a life force energy, as I mentioned, and again, why we want to eat food that's alive. Now, it's important to remember, food is either medicine or it is your brain on drugs. There's no other way of looking at it. Food is medicine or food is poison. Because really what happens is that this is just the way our biology reacts to food. It is, it takes all the stuff, it breaks it down, and, it either sparks us up and we're like alive, awake and happy, or we're like, sluggish. And so it affects us. And so we can either use food as medicine to help us function and to heal our body, or we can look at it as, it's food is poison. Now, I remember once like offering somebody this salad, I don't remember, and she's like, well, oh no, I don't eat healthy food. And I was like, healthy food, like I don't eat healthy food. So then what does that mean? You eat unhealthy food? Well, if you're eating unhealthy food, then like, of course you're going to have problems with your health. And so it's just really starting to make these conscious connections in our mind that, we are making these choices that are either going to help us live our life in a happy, healthful, wonderful, blissful way that's going to allow us to manifest that which we desire, or we are not. And so, these are choices that we make. And whether we're conscious of it or not, we create emotion and behavior patterns around our food. So I always say, ask yourself questions while eating to get in touch with your body. How does this food make me feel? Does it lift me up? What is the life force energy I'm receiving from this food? Does this food feel alive? Remember that the food industry knows how to play into your emotions. It knows how to play into your feelings. It presents happy families eating at McDonald's because, you're like, oh, I want that feeling of happiness, or like friends together around watching a sports game, eating Taco Bell. Oh, I want to have that kind of, feeling with my friends. It looks so light, free, carefree and happy. And so they're feeding into our emotions. And so we want to, reprogram ourselves to not look at what is feeding us externally and look at what we feel internally and start to think about, how does this make me feel? What do I feel while I am eating? Before I'm eating too, like what is the emotion before I entered into eating this food? What am I feeling while I'm eating? And then what do I feel after I ate? And how do I feel 2 hours later? And how do I feel the next day? Because you're going to start to get clues about what your body really needs and what it doesn't need and what it feels good with and what it doesn't feel good with. And this is really how you're going to start listening to your body's cues. Okay, so let's talk about 3 action steps to tap into your body's intuition and healing. And I'm going to tell you that this is stuff that anybody can do and that you can implement right away. I'm not, I told you that my journey has been over, 25 years or so, more than that. And, for me, it has been an evolution of the simple steps. It's never been about making quick jumps. If you had told me, when I started this journey, or even if you had told me this like 2 years ago that I would be vegan and, I don't drink and I don't all these things, I don't drink coffee, I don't drink caffeine, I would have laughed in your face. I would have there's no way I would have ever agreed to anything like that. This is my body that has allowed this to manifest within myself. And I'm not having to force myself to do anything. My body is leading the way. And this is something that anybody can do. I was raised on junk food. I was raised on McDonald's. McDonald's was my favorite meal. I ate, junk food all the time. And to be at where I am is not something that I ever imagined or dreamed for myself. And I know it's possible. And this is something anybody can do. So don't ever feel like, oh, that's like so lofty, I'm never going to get there. You're not trying to be like me. You're not trying to be like anybody else. You are trying to be like yourself. And what you are trying to do is to get a little bit better than where you were before. It is a step-by-step, allowing your body to lead the way, allowing you to also, remember to overcome some of those signals that are programmed into your body, like emotional eating, using consciousness, and make better choices so that your body can work with you and not against you. All right, so let's get into step one. And before that, does anybody have any questions? All right. How's everybody doing? Is this information helpful? Are you enjoying it? Okay, sounds good. Okay, good. All right. All right, let's get into the steps. Step one. Create safety in the body from the moment you rise. This is so important. Remember, what I mentioned earlier is that our bodies are operating with this, all of these inputs and all of these feelings and all of this, emotional stuff and this baggage. And sometimes we don't even know what the baggage is because it might even not be from this lifetime. We don't know what's going on. There's so much that's happening within us. So what we want to do is to create safety in the body, because when you create safety in the body, then you can work through those other times. Now, I'll tell you that, one of the things that I've discovered about myself is that I have this low level of anxiety that is always there. I used to be a highly anxious person, and I thought when I got rid of all that high adrenaline, I was like, great, I'm better and everything is really good. But then I discovered I have this low level of anxiety that runs through me. And that's something that I'm going to keep working on and keep taking the time to reprogram within myself. So it's really essential that I create that safety so that, when I'm making decisions, I'm not making it from anything that's feeding that anxiety to make decisions that would not be in my best interest. So again, we think about cultivating safety in our body so that it helps our body functions, and so that it also helps us work with our body and for our body to work with us. So how do we create safety from the moment that we rise? It's the simple things. It's the things that, people, when they come to me and they're like, let's talk about food and how I can change my life, they're not expecting that it's the way we live life that is going to change our relationship to food. So when you wake up in the morning, take 3 deep breaths, set an intention, be grateful. These create safety in the body, right? It's really the mechanism for which we're saying, okay, this is a new day. Don't reach for your phone right away. I mean, I use my phone for an alarm, and I have it so that I can just swipe this and I'm not going to look at it. Just let everything go. Just allow yourself to be present with this new energy of a new day. This helps your body get into that, that mode of like, okay, everything is fine. We're good for now. Because you don't want to start thinking about all the things you have to do and, whatever's going on. Even if your brain goes there, consciously take it back, take 3 deep breaths, set an intention. Today, I'm going to have a good day. Today, my day is going to flow with grace and ease. Today, I'm going to accomplish at least 2 things off my list, whatever you want to do, and be grateful for something. I'm grateful that I have a warm bed to wake up in. It's cold here, so I'm thinking about the warmth for you on the other side of the world, and down below, you're probably wanting a cooler bed. Whatever it is, right? Be grateful. Be grateful for what you have. Be conscious of what you put into your body first thing in the morning. This is going to be the most controversial thing that I say. Caffeine is one of the most serious toxins for our body. Now, I was a like 4 Red Bull a day kind of person. It was really bad. I was a caffeine addict. And I would, cycle through times where I would let go of caffeine, and then I would come back into my system, and then, I would let go of it again. And then I remember when I was, in certain places in the world, including Ethiopia, the motherland of where coffee came from, and I could see the ritual behind it and intention behind it, and I saw the beauty of coffee, and I brought it back into my life. But then I got a channel from Mother Earth that really talked about why caffeine was not good for us. And then I started to do the scientific research and everything, and really truly began to understand caffeine on all four fronts. There's a reason why the matrix pushes caffeine on us. There is a reason why it is encouraged and accepted. If you pay attention, if you're watching a movie, a TV show, and you start to pay attention, they insert caffeine everywhere. There's a Starbucks cup in the back of like somebody's desk, all the way in the back. There's somebody who's holding something that quickly flashes a Starbucks logo. There's a coffee mug somewhere. People are gathered around a coffee machine in a workplace. It's inserted there. And while you think that, you may not have seen that, Starbucks logo or whatever it is, your subconscious is picking up on every single cue. Or it doesn't bring everything to our consciousness because we would be overwhelmed, but it's picking up on everything and it becomes a habit. Coffee is being drilled into us. Caffeine in all forms is being drilled into us to make us productive and, I don't know, like cogs in a machine. And even when you think you're breaking free, we still get trapped into this mentality of, I need to get this done. I need to do this. And this is really promoting that. And what that does is it puts our body into survival mode. It's going to put our body into this idea of fight or flight. And as a stimulant, as a toxin, caffeine immediately sends our body into fight or flight. So I'm not telling you you have to give up caffeine or coffee. That is your choice and you can evolve. I did I tried giving it up like 3 times in my life. And then finally in this last time I did finally. And it's been 3 years for me without it. And I'm learning about my own biorhythms that way. And it's not something that everybody has to do, but I highly recommend that you reduce the addiction and the need for coffee. It's so easy for our mind to go there, to be like, I need caffeine in order to do this. I call it, what did I say? I used it as liquid courage and liquid energy, right? It was something that I didn't have to resource for myself. I depended on something external to us. And as we talk about sovereignty, as we talk about moving into being our own conscious creators of reality, we want to be cycling this energy from us. There's so many ways that you can do this, through breath work, through, a little bit of vigorous exercise. There's so many ways that we can resource ourselves for energy, that we don't need to be dependent on something external. So for now, I just say, don't start your day with caffeine, okay? If you still need caffeine, it's a serious addiction that we all have. You go through withdrawals, like the whole thing. And so I'm not saying that you have to give it up, but you can create safety in your body by starting your day with nutrition. So think about having that glass of water, add some lemon to it. It's going to flush our system, and then have a juice or something. Like you can have a smoothie, a piece of fruit, just something that is going to create nutrition in your body, that your body is like, oh, okay, I feel safe. I got what I needed and I'm calm. And when I say breakfast, it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. Remember, when you are having breakfast, it's when you're breaking your fast of not eating while you were asleep, and then however long in the day until you eat. It's the first thing that goes into your system. And so when you have caffeine, it's sending your body into fight or flight. We don't want that. So we want to have something that is going to say, yes, this is nutritious. I feel safe. This is really good. Before going to bed, create safety by turning off the screen, eating a light dinner, and avoid eating 2 to 3 hours before bed. So as I mentioned before, the body can either digest and heal, or the body can either digest food or it can heal. So digestion is the most taxing function that our body has to do. It is the most stressful thing. And so that's why it shuts down all systems of our body so that we can digest. So if you're sleeping at night, digesting a meal, guess what you're not doing? You're not healing. You're not going into repair. You're not going into fixing all those things consciously and subconsciously within us. So this is the time when there's no digestion happening. This is the time that our body is going to repair DNA damage. It's going to, secrete hormones properly. It's going to help us release those emotions that are stored in our body. So Eat 2 to 3 hours before bed, so your body has some time to process that food before going to sleep. And then all these other things are going to help create that safety in the body. Okay. Oh yeah. And so the other thing I just wanted to state about caffeine, remember that, with caffeine, watch what you're eating with the caffeine, because it does increase our desire for fatty, sweet, salty foods. But this is why things like coffee and donuts or coffee and cake and all these things are really linked together. So you just want to make sure that, you're aware that, like, if you're having caffeine, you're like, I'm enjoying this cup of coffee, I'm enjoying this cup of tea, this caffeinated tea, I'm enjoying this matcha, whatever it is that you want to drink for caffeine, like, I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to be conscious of what I'm putting in my body. If you eat a proper meal with the caffeine, it's going to slow the absorption of the caffeine into your bloodstream, so your body doesn't go into fight or flight, and it's going to just help your body feel the energy while feeling more safe. I also encourage you to play with coffee alternatives. Cacao is such a beautiful way to start your day. It's a heart opener. It allows you to really just enter into a different safe space. And, it's considered the food of the gods for many reasons. You don't have to have like proper ceremonial cacao. Like, there are companies out there like Creo Brew that make cacao that you can brew like coffee. So for people who like the ritual of coffee, it allows you to really keep that ritual and have a cup of cacao that like tastes like the way like coffee would, as it's very liquidy, like it's like a water-based drink, because you're making it the same way, but it's giving you the feeling and the heart-opening effects of cacao instead of caffeine. Ticino is another brand that makes these really beautiful coffee substitutes that are made out of like chicory root and dandelion, and the sugar is carob usually. They make all sorts of flavors. You can get them as tea bags. You could brew it like coffee. There's mushroom teas. There's so many different things. Mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms like reishi and chaga and lion's mane. These are all great sources of energy as well. All right. Action step number 2. Now, this is really important, right? So we want to cultivate safety in our body by, really, taking those deep breaths and front loading with nutrition. But we also want to reduce and eliminate packaged and processed food. Packaged, processed, fried food. These are all really what are not only dysregulating our gut biome, our gut microbiome, but they're keeping us disconnected from our body, because all of these foods are disrupting the way the gut microbiome works. And again, this is a whole masterclass in and of itself. But basically, when we are destroying the gut lining, destroying the microbial diversity, destroying all these things, what we lose is the connection to our body. Because as I mentioned, our body, the gut controls, our brain, it controls our immunology, it controls our endocrine system, it controls, every aspect of ourselves. And when we are wanting to connect with ourselves, when we are wanting to really go in, what we are asking for is wisdom and intuition. And so what do we need? We need to be connected to our body to receive this intuitive hit, because this is why we call it that gut feeling. And what happens with, processed food and fried food and packaged food, it actually takes us away from our prefrontal cortex, which is our cognitive abilities, our consciousness. This is where we are being able to push outside of ourselves and really stretch further and be, the beings that we came here to be. And what it does is it puts us back into our reptilian brain. And, when we are in our reptilian brain, this is our basic functions of survival. And so, fried food does this, caffeine unfortunately does this as well. And so what we want to do is really make sure that we're reducing these kind of inputs in our life so that we can stay in our prefrontal cortex, where we are consciously making decisions that allow us to connect with our body more. So as I mentioned, food is medicine or it's poison. Packaged, processed, fried food, it's food that's been depleted of its life force energy. And as I mentioned before, it's a drug for the body, right? That feel-good feeling is a chemical response. That it's a dopamine hit. It's, this is what, the majority of our dopamine and serotonin, all these feel-good molecules are made by our gut microbiome. And so what ends up happening is that, we end up with this chemical response. I apologize for the misspellings here. I was typing too fast. But anyway, so, it is that feel-good feeling. So when we eat the fried food, the packaged food, and all this stuff, the food industry knows how to stimulate those dopamine, serotonin responses because we become addicted to that response. So what ends up happening is we get that feel-good feeling. You eat those French fries and you feel so good, and then you feel disgusting, right? So you don't feel great for the long term. And sometimes if we're not connected with our body, we don't associate the food with the reason why we're moody later, or why we, are having that gut pain, or, all the different feelings. This is all because of the food that we ate. And so now what you want to do is you want to start paying attention to how that food makes you feel. You don't have to give up all the food that you love. Okay. Again, this is about slow, manageable changes, but consciously make decisions to eat this food. If you decide to eat fast food, if you decide to eat something packaged or processed, just consciously say, I am going to choose to eat this, and pay attention to how it makes you feel. Because the more consciousness that you can actively bring to yourself before the food removes you from that consciousness, the more you're going to be able to connect the dots for how this food made you feel. And the more your body begins to realize, hey, you know what? That doesn't feel so good. You're no longer going to crave that food. So I was put to the ultimate test because pizza was like my number one. I was like such a pizza snob. I was very particular about the pizza, and there's like a perfect slice of New York City pizza. I grew up in New York, and from that way, and I was very much a food snob in lots of different ways. And it was like the gooiness of the cheese and like the thinness of the crust and all the ways the components came together. It's like it's its own form of food alchemy when you get the perfect slice of pizza. And it was something that I never imagined that I would ever be able to give up. But you put the perfect slice of pizza in front of me, and I do not want to eat it. My body says no. My mind is like, oh my God, yes, I want that. But my body says no. It's because I've started to connect all those dots. And like, I had to get to that point. I had to have a lot of times in there where I was like, no, I'm going to do it anyway. And then feel that feeling to the point right now where I am not going to ignore that feeling. I know what my body needs and what's going to make me feel good, and I actually don't crave it anymore. So anybody can do this, okay? And start small. Don't expect yourself to be able to do everything at once. Okay, so also, think about the amount of salt, sugar, fat that's in the food that you're eating, right? Usually salt, sugar, fat is not in alive foods. All alive foods have salt, sugar, and fat, but in amounts that we can use in indigestible forms and in ways that our body can incorporate. All this processed salt, sugar, and fat is actually numbing our taste buds. And we can't taste it anymore, and we require more. I just remember how much of a salt fiend I became because my body required more salt because I couldn't taste it anymore. There were some restaurants that I used to go to, and I'd be like, oh, this food is so salty. And it's because they're putting so much salt in, and they can't taste it anymore as they're tasting the food, and then it becomes oversalted. But why do they include all this salt, sugar, and fat? Because biologically, this stimulates craving, and it's the body, the feedback loop in our body. And the industry knows how to tap into this. And so this is why it's put into all our food. So again, when you can, when you have those cravings, just start with something that is going to nourish you first. Sometimes we want crackers, right? And it's nice to have crackers, but maybe reach for something crunchy like a celery stick or something first, carrots. And just stimulate the nutrition in your body first, and then have the packaged food. Again, so that you are teaching your body what feels good, and you're also then front loading with the nutrition so you don't overeat on the snack. And it's also important to remember the way you prevent disease is the way you cure disease. This is one of the biggest disconnects that exists within the medical system. They look at the cure of a disease being separate from the prevention of disease. We all know how we, prevent disease is by doing the things that, that are hard to do, which is to confront all of our addictions, whether it be, cigarettes and coffee and fatty foods and staying up too late and partying and doing lots of drugs and alcohol. And we all know that these things are fun until they become not fun, right? And but we also know that these things shorten our lifespan. We know it and we still do it. And that's okay. We're here to experience. There's nothing wrong with what you choose to experience in this existence. There's nothing wrong with any choice that you make. Just always remember that. Never blame yourself for the choices that you make. Remember that you're making choices to experience things. Experience them and allow yourself to feel into how that experience made you feel. Now, what you want to do is also think about where you want to go, what you want to achieve, who you want to be, and make decisions that are in alignment with that. So if your goal is to remove disease or to lose weight or to feel safe, then think about the choice of what you're deciding. Should I if I'm trying to, conquer, diabetes, then I probably shouldn't have that donut, right? And if you make that choice to have that donut, then make that choice to do it. Be aware that you are making that choice and, really apply your consciousness for the future, saying, okay, I had that. I fulfilled that desire. I don't need to do it again. I don't need to make a choice, a habit. So what we want to do is make sure that the habits are moving in the direction that you want to go and not making quote unquote lower vibrational choices your new habit, right? So don't make that cupcake a day a habit. Instead, a cupcake can be had when it's like a birthday, and that's good enough. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the way that whatever it is that you want to achieve, it doesn't matter what you want to achieve. It's all the same. I remember I used to be in cancer research and then cancer communications and all these things. And people used to say, like, the pharmaceutical industry is hiding the cure. It's always hiding the cure. And yes, there are cures out there that, they've, squashed scientists' research, or they've, done worse, like kill them. And there have been things like that. There's no doubt in that, but there is no one magic bullet, cure for everybody, because really the cure has always been hidden in plain sight. It has always been available to us. And it's always the tougher choices of eating well, sleeping, focusing on self-care, having clean food and water. And sometimes we don't have access to these things, but it's about us making choices that allow us to cultivate a lifestyle that brings more of this in. All right, let's go on to action step 3. Action step number 3, listen and learn from your body, right? So this is what we've been talking about the entire time, right? Listening and learning from your body. It's one thing to say, listen and learn from your body. It's another thing to do it. So now this is about embodying it, not just leaving this all in your brain saying, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pay attention. I know what to do. It's consciously making the choice that I am going to do this. And this quote, if you listen to your body when it whispers, you won't have to hear it scream, right? Everything that we feel within our body starts as a nudge. You might even have a thought about it before you actually feel it, right? It might be a niggle, a little whisper, something that's irking you. And then it slowly builds, and then it becomes that ache. And then that ache becomes a scream. So what we want to do is try to prevent that. Now, sometimes things happen. I can tell you I have a pain in my neck. It's, it's been something that's been developing over years, and I've been going through it in many different ways. But, as I'm going through that, I'm uncovering a lot of different stories, and I'm beginning to realize how much there is to unpack from what is just a little pain in the neck that is turning into being a bigger pain in the neck. But I can only imagine how bad it would be if I hadn't started to do that work when it started to talk to me. So listen and learn from your body. And to do that, what we want to do is discern the feelings, right? Discern the feelings. Pay attention to how your body feels before, during, and after, several hours after, and the next day when you eat something, right? Just pay attention so that, as I mentioned before, you're linking the food to how you feel. Differentiate between a good change and a bad change. I had this person tell me that they started to juice celery and have celery juice, and it was making them feel worse. It was making them feel worse because it was detoxifying their body. Detoxing really sucks because we have a lot of stuff stored in our body, and it's an unpleasant feeling. But man, the way you feel afterwards is amazing. And you just have to go through the shadow to get to the light. It's the same for everything, whether you're dealing with your body or you're dealing with the emotions, you're dealing with a change in your life. You have to go through the storm to get to the other side and see the bright sunshine on the other side. So discern between a good change and your bad change, because your body is just going to think this sucks. When you start to work out and you go for that first run, you're like, oh my God, my heart is beating. I feel sweaty. I'm anxious. This sucked. I couldn't go anywhere. And it didn't feel good. But that is a change for the positive, But now if you start to develop a heel spur and your heel is hurting, and that's a bad change, right? So discern between a good change and a bad change and move yourself in the direction that you want to be going to. Now, give any change 3 weeks to a couple of months to see how it feels. And I say 3 weeks because people need short time spans, but I say make achievable goals that you can stick to for a long period of time. Try a couple months. You really cannot see changes. That's not true. You can see dramatic changes in a short amount of time, but what you want to do is you really want to build in habits that you can maintain for a long time and do things, a little bit at a time. It might be something like, I'm going to drink a glass of water first thing in the morning and eat a piece of fruit. Give yourself a couple of months doing that consistently. Make it a conscious choice. Put a reminder on your phone if you have to. Have an alarm bell going off. I will drink water and eat a piece of fruit before I eat anything else. Whatever you need to do, but just give it that time to really see how your body feels. Take notes, keep a journal, just pay attention and help yourself build consciousness around this. And also allow your body to detox, right? Because detoxing, as I mentioned, sucks. It doesn't, feel good. You might start to notice that you start to have skin lesions and all this other stuff. And you're like, oh my God, this is making me worse. It's not. That is the detox process. You got to get rid of all that gunk that has been building up. So you can help push the detox process through so it doesn't have to show as, skin lesions by doing things that are good, that allow this energy and this stuff to move through you. Tongue scraping your tongue. You can get a tongue scraper, from most health food stores and online. Just scrape your tongue first thing in the morning and at night. Make it like brushing your teeth. Make it a daily habit. Drink more water. It helps flush your system. Getting a massage. Massage just gets through that tissue and helps push things out. Go in a sauna, sweat it out. There's something called coconut pulling, where you can take a tablespoon of coconut oil and swish it around in your mouth. The longer you swish it, the better it is. They say for up to 20 minutes, it's a long time. But sometimes what I do is put coconut oil in my mouth and I swish it around, and I'm going around the house puttering about doing other things. Dry brushing is it's a specific kind of brush that you brush against your skin, moving the lymphatic tissue so you can brush up your body. What you want to do is move everything towards your heart. So brush up from your feet towards your heart, and then, your arms, and you're just moving this stuff around so that it gets out of you easier. So that way your organs that are doing the detox process, like your liver and your kidneys, and they're getting some help. Give yourself a break from food. Okay, intermittent fasting or a full day fast if you can. You can start slow. If this is hard for you, start slow. I do have a detox program available that you can sign up for. That's, if you go to my Instagram page, there's a link for it in the link tree there. You can go to my website, foodalchemics.com. The detox program really takes you through how to ease into something like intermittent and full fasting, and allows you to go through the detox process and allows you to really get in touch with your body. We go through it from a mental, emotional, and physical perspective. But what you really want to do is give your body that break. As I mentioned, don't eat 2 to 3 hours before bed. If you can extend the amount of time that you're not eating, like if you can do the intermittent fasting of either, 12, 14, 16, or 18 hours in the night, that's great. It's a small window of eating, but, it really helps your body. Every so often, you might want to try to do a full day fast or maybe a 3-day fast. Go slow with this. You don't want to jump into something like fasting and stress your body, okay? Because fasting can be a stress. And so you don't want to stress your body through this. You want to allow your body the safety so that it can detox. And that's what we talk a lot about in the program. It's super, I think it's like $20 or something. And so it's just to, you get a whole series of videos, but it can help you in your process if you need help. Pay attention to the narratives that convince you to eat something that does not feel good, or knowing something that you should not eat. We all have these narratives. We all have these narratives in our brain that are like telling us, you know what, that's okay. You can have that extra glass of alcohol, have that sugar, have that thing. I can tell you, I'm dealing with my narratives around chocolate. I mean, chocolate is like such an addiction for me. And I can't just have like a small piece of chocolate. I have to eat the whole bar. And I eat really good chocolate. It's really healthy chocolate. But I don't need to eat a whole bar. And it's stories that are there about, why I need this chocolate. And I'm constantly having to go through my mental process of like, okay, what's going on? Why do I want chocolate? I want chocolate because I want to feel good. Why don't I feel good right now? Well, this thing happened. Well, this thing that happened in my life today is triggering this emotional response from this other thing that happened in my life. You start to see how the stories of your life are connecting. So again, make this conscious. Like, you don't have to do this for every single thing you eat. You don't have to do this for every single meal. Start with where you're at. Maybe make a decision like, I'm going to consciously eat when I, maybe for breakfast, or I'm going to consciously eat a snack every day. You can start to build in the consciousness until you start to want to apply it to everything because it feels good. I know we have gone over time, and that there's just have a few more slides and then we'll be done. And I really appreciate you guys hanging in there. So let me know if you have any questions about that. But I just want to tell you that, like, I say all this stuff, and like, sometimes people come to me and they're like, well, it's so easy for you. You did this, you're thin, you're this, you're that. They put all these labels on me, and they don't know how hard I worked to get to where I am. And also how much I have like battled within my own food relationships to be where I am, where I feel good in my body. I've had so many issues with eating and eating disorders and, just food, food rules and all these, just all this, negative energy around food. And to be where I am, that I love the way I feel. I love how I look. I can cycle between 10 pounds and feel good about it because I can feel the natural rhythms of my body. I know how to adjust as I am, going through life, and it feels really good. But it didn't start that way. I mentioned I grew up on fast and processed foods, and there was an overuse of antibiotics. I had a lot of early childhood trauma, and it was just lots of death and abuse and all these things. And food was a coping mechanism. It was just something that I used to, really, just make myself feel better. I used to do odd things. I used to eat like potato chips and milk because I wanted the sweet and the salty, and milk is nourishing and comforting, and potato chips were crunchy. And it was like, I just had all this stuff with food, and it was all to make myself feel better, but I didn't feel better. And I dealt with severe depression. I had like 35 years of really deep depression. I was a functioning depressive. It was like one of those stories that these stories that we hear in the media of people like Robin Williams or, Anthony Bourdain. And we're like, why would they do that? Why would they do that? They look like they had the perfect life, or they look like they were, they were happy. And this is what it looks like. You can be that functioning depressive. I had so much anxiety anxiety. I was very suicidal. It was always in the back of my head. I'd attempted several times throughout my life. I dealt with severe body dysmorphia, anorexia, binge eating. I went from overweight to underweight. I would cycle between the two, like being like 20 to 30 pounds overweight to being like 20 pounds underweight. I went through everything. And, I changed my diet slowly. And this was, not because, this was, the thing was that like, I had a, inkling that something had to do with food. And I think it had to do because of my relationship with my parents or whatever, but there was just something that told me food was the key. And I began to play with my diet. And, I would change things and, make adjustments, but eventually I would slip back into old ways and whatever. But it really took me having severe health issues. Like my asthma came out of control, allergies, I was pre-diabetic. The weight fluctuations were severely unhealthy. It became too much. The depression, anxiety. I have a daughter who's 9 years old. She dealt with a lot of this in her early part of her life. I didn't like being that kind of mother. I didn't like who I was. And it wasn't until all of this came to a head for me that I really began to truly treat food as medicine. And I began to fast along with meditation and exercise and the shadow work and plant medicines. And I did the whole gamut. But for me, this really began with my relationship with food. Everybody has got a way in. There's 1,000 different avenues that we are all coming into the same road to being better versions of ourselves. It can be through journaling. It can be through meditation. It can be through breath work. It can be through food and exercise and all of these different things. But in the end, what ends up happening is we end up in this container where we're all being held and we're all dealing with the same thing. And while maybe somebody didn't consider food as part of their journey because they were looking at it from the perspective of shadow work with plant medicine, then they suddenly start to realize, wow, food is actually impacting this too. And then food becomes part of their thing. We all end up in the same container. And so it's not about being perfect and like, having to say like, oh, I have to, fix this with my food and I have to do it the right way now. It's remembering that it's part of the whole package and really starting to work with the body and starting to work with your relationship with food. And now, now my body craves live foods, I'll tell you, I still think about foods that are not like every so often, like I go through these feelings where I'm like, oh yeah, I would really like that slice of pizza. And I go to a place where I can get a slice of pizza and my body says, no, you do not want that slice of pizza. So I let my body guide me. And, and there's different ways of working with that. I'm actually writing a book right now all about this. And it's a couple of years overdue. My goal is to get it out this year. But it's all about how to work with your body and allow this. But it's, now I've gotten to the point where now because my body guides me, I'm pushing my boundaries and I am doing things that I never thought were possible. And it's like the universe is just responding and kind to me. I'm in a place that I never thought I would ever be in my life. I've never felt more grateful to be alive. I've never felt happier. And this is not a short-term feeling. I have felt this way for a couple of years now. So I know this is sustained and the universe is opening its doors for me and just aligning me with divine opportunity. I'm being handed gifts I didn't even know I wanted. I didn't even know I could ask for in such a way. But because it's reading my energy fields, because it's seeing who I am, because it's looking at my experience, my bio-individuality, it's handing me opportunity that is super aligned with me, that is just a fuck yes to life. And this is something that anybody can do. I am not special. There's nobody who is, not capable of this. We came here to be able to be the best version of ourselves, and you can too. All right, so just a couple more slides. So do's and don'ts. Do plan, okay? Success is the residue of planning. If you are saying like, I'm just gonna, hope that this day goes well, then it's probably, and you're not thinking about how you can strategize your day so that it goes well, it's, you might be hit with a lot of road bumps along the way, because that's what life does. It throws us speed bumps and we just have to navigate. So plan. So if you plan on saying, I want to start with a piece of fruit before I eat a salty snack, and your work only offers salty snack, bring fruit with you to work. That's all it is. Just bring some, a little container of strawberries, bring an apple, bring bring an orange, whatever you want to bring. Just bring a little container so that you can say, okay, I'm going to eat this first, and then I'm going to have that salty snack. It is all due to your planning. Front load your day with nutrition, with foods that are alive, as we've talked about. I start my day, well, I used to start my day. Now that I'm doing this fruit fast, I'm starting it with like a detox smoothie that's fruit based mostly. But I used to start my day with a veggie smoothie, and it was like a blend of kale, apple, or spinach. It doesn't have to be kale, but I would use like charred spinach, kale. But the base was cucumber, celery, apple, and avocado. And then a green, like I said, like kale, charred spinach, collards, whatever you want. The darker the green, the more bitter it's going to be. But I would have that, and then I would add some ginger and like turmeric. You can use fresh or dried if you'd like. I like it fresh. And then I'd put in things like mushroom powders, like the reishi chaga, all those. And I would blend it up and I would drink that. And I started every day front loaded with nutrition, and I would make better food choices in the day because I wouldn't have these like cravings that were nutritional hunger, that my body was asking for nutrition, and then I would make bad decisions that would lower my vibration. So front load your day with foods that are going to give you, the life force energy and nutritional energy. Listen to your body. If you're hungry, then eat. Don't starve yourself. There's no need to starve yourself. If you're making a conscious choice to fast and you're finding that, fasting is really hard and you're really wanting something, but you don't want to break your fast, have a little bit of coconut water because it'll give you a little bit of sugar. Don't deprive yourself. It's really listening to your body's cues so you can discern from the different types of hunger. Just reach for life-giving foods. Hydrate. Hydrate. Now I could do a whole talk on water, and I don't want to get into that, but just remember to, you don't always have to drink water, but you can eat water-rich fruits and vegetables like watermelon and cucumber and berries, okay? What you want to not do, don't give up, okay? Don't give up. There's no such thing as falling off the wagon. Don't give up. Just try a little better. Okay, that's all it is. If you are like, you know what, I'm only going to have 3 bites of the cake, and you end up eating the whole cake, it's okay. Just be conscious about it. Just reflect on it. See how your body feels and try a little better. Don't overwhelm yourself with massive changes all at once. Take it one step at a time, and don't wait till tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to start this tomorrow. Don't start right away. There's nothing wrong with starting right away. All right. Oh, live stream is going to end in 5 minutes, so we're going to end this really quickly, okay? Okay, just remember that every little effort is like, every little action you do has, big effect in the end. This is not about great effort. This is not about overhauling your life. This is about just little changes that accumulate over time. If you just do nothing, you're going to remain exactly where you began. If you just do the tiniest little fraction a little bit better, you're going to have a massive change at the end of the year. It's all about persistence, okay? So remember what I said before. Your health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. No one can do this for you. It is your choice. So in summary, food rules are designed to keep you trapped in a false system of health. You're unique. What works for you may not work for others. Focus on what works for you. Healthy food is alive. All other food is not alive. It's not healthy. Create safety in your body. Nourish yourself. Pay attention to what you're feeling and what you are eating. Just make that consciousness link with it. Be gentle with yourself. Work with your body, not against it. Eat to help heal your body and to help your body heal itself. And just do a little bit better every day. I just want to thank you so much for listening to me. Let me stop the share here. And, I apologize for going so long. Didn't leave enough time for questions, but feel free to ask questions in the app. I will check in and answer them. It would be so great if there was a human graph like plant pictures where it shows the different colors and what is deficient in a plant. Like you were saying, when you're hungry, you're really deficient in some vitamin or substance. Yeah, you can actually Google that. That is something that you can find online, and I have seen those charts. It's really helpful. What's my Instagram account? Oh, thanks. I'll put it in the app afterwards, but you can find me at Food Alchemics. It's FOODALKHEMIX. On Instagram, that's where I'm most active. I also have a couple videos up on YouTube under the same account name, so you can find me there. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I think this is going to kick us off in about 2 minutes. But I really want to thank you for staying through this, because, you know, what I really am passionate about is helping you be a better version of yourself, helping you heal, because, you know, when one of us rises, we all rise. You know, like I said, I'm not somebody special. I'm just somebody who has done the work to be where I am. And you are all doing it in your own way, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't doing it. You wouldn't be working with Jesse and Sakula and all the amazing teachers that are here. You know, continue just making these kind of changes in your life, and you're going to get to where you want to go. And so just remember to really be kind and gentle to yourself, listen to yourself, honor yourself, love yourself. All right, thank you really very much. And like I said, if you have any questions, just leave them in the app and I will be sure to follow up. All right, thank you so much. Bye.